This is Mikey ASMR. And tonight we are going to be reading Calvin and Hobbes. It was one of my favorite comic books to read as a child. I spent countless hours reading these books. My parents got them for me for Christmas one year, and I read them basically throughout my entire childhood. This was a series that I started about 2 years ago, but at the time I didn't really have the time or the energy to make that series happen. I was still in school and had a lot going on. I was still trying to finish a lot of things up, but trying to pick this back up again and get my channel more active. So, hopefully you guys enjoy. The first few pages of this are just an introduction by the artist. It's actually a very interesting read, but for the sake of the video, I'm just going to skip past this. Just get right to the comics. But this guy is a very fascinating individual. This is book 1 of the complete collection spanning from 1985 to 1988. And there's Calvin, and there's Hobbes. So this is the first comic that Bill Watterson ever wrote of Calvin and Hobbes, at least that was published. So long, Pop. I'm off to check my tiger trap. I rigged a tuna fish sandwich yesterday, so I'm sure to have a tiger by now. They like tuna fish, huh? Tigers will do anything for a tuna fish sandwich. We're kind of stupid that way. So, Dad, what do I do when I catch a tiger? Bring it home and stuff it, Calvin. Can't you see I'm busy? Sheesh. No, really. I couldn't eat another bite. I'm just gonna skip forward a bit. Get some more page turning. But yeah, if you're not familiar with these comics, Bill Watterson is not only really hilarious and very clever writer, but he's also a fantastic illustrator. And some of these drawings, this is a Spaceman Spiff comic where Calvin imagines that he's an intergalactic traveler and a sort of a pirate or an adventurer that travels through the cosmos. But Watterson's drawings, they get incredibly complex, and they're very, very elaborate and very interesting. And it really kind of makes you imagine and kind of makes you remember how strong your imagination could be as a child. This comic here. Calvin, are you going to take that stuffed tiger to school again? Sure. Don't the kids make fun of you? Tommy Chestnut did once, and now nobody does. Why? What happened to Tommy Chestnut? chestnut. Hobbes ate him. Ugh. He needed a bath, too. Calvin. What's all this noise? You're supposed to be asleep. Monsters under the bed, Dad. I was whacking one with my baseball bat. Goodness, Calvin. It's just your stuffed tiger. You should put away your toys. Sorry, old buddy. Good thing I missed occasionally, huh? Yeah. Let me see your bat for a minute. One of my other favorite things about this book is really the feel of the pages and the smell of the pages especially. It really just reminds me of, again, when I was a kid, but there's just really nothing quite like the smell of a book, a hardcover book. It's got like that faint wood smell, but there's just something to it that really kind of, I don't know, it's hard to explain. If you know what I'm talking about, you understand. But this collection definitely has that particular smell and feel to it. Oh, these are awesome too. The snow comics here are really cool. I grew up in the South, and so I never really had a lot of snow, so I was always kind of jealous of what life would be like if I had snow every winter. But I'm sure that people from the North would tell me that they're probably jealous of the South and that it's not as great as it might seem. So here Calvin builds a fortress. And he says there, our fortress is completely indestructible. And Hobbes reads in the newspaper, sunny and warmer today, high in the upper 30s. And then trails off. And Calvin declares, our snow fort is impenetrable. At the slightest provocation, we'll let loose a merciless barrage of stinging ice. None dare attack us. We rule all. Together, a veritable fist of defiance, we stand immune to any onslaught. We are invincible. And then Hobbes just blasts him in the face with a snowball. And this comic on this side, Calvin's asking his mom where Hobbes' stocking is. And he yells out, where's Santa gonna stick Hobbes' loot if Hobbes doesn't have a stocking? And his mom says, okay, I'll make Hobbes a stocking, don't worry. And then Calvin says, make it big, but not as big as mine. And his mom looks at the dad and goes, Hobbes' loot. And he says, don't look at me, I'm done shopping. Yeah, I did my first year of actual Christmas shopping as an adult this past Christmas, and even though I'm still really, I don't have a big family, I decided to, get presents for my family and friends, and it's draining, and it costs a lot of money. Yeah, it's something I definitely took for granted as a kid, and I didn't really, appreciate as much until I was an adult, and I tried to buy gifts for my friends and family. So I get that. I feel his pain. It's another kind of classic Calvin and Hobbes strip. Not this one in particular, but it's just this style where they are on the toboggan. A lot of very introspective and transcendental revelations occur when Calvin and Hobbes are kind of in the middle of the woods, just sledding and having a conversation. But here, Calvin asks Hobbes, How long do you think it is till bedtime? And Hobbes says, oh, 6 or 7 hours, I imagine. And then he goes, why do you ask? And then Calvin says, with any luck, Mom will notice we're missing by then. And in this next comic, Calvin is just nailing nails into a table. He's just hammering nails into a coffee table over and over. And his mom runs in and goes, Calvin, what are you doing to the coffee table? And he just kind of looks at it. And then he asks his mom, is this some sort of trick question or what? I think these are hilarious because Calvin is like a total smart ass, but I don't know. Just he's got a really interesting way of looking at life. And I mean, he's just a kid, so like the parents can't like really get mad at him, but there are definitely times where he can clearly tell the difference between right and wrong, but he just kind of feigns ignorance and just kind of does shit because he wants to. But in this case, yeah, I think it's if you are kind of a troublesome kid, then you can relate to this sort of thing because I don't know about nailing or hammering nails into a coffee table, but I definitely did some stupid stuff as a little kid. And, I think everyone's guilty of that to some extent, but it's definitely relatable. And here's the character Susie, who is sort of Calvin's nemesis, but also like love interest in the comics. And I think it's actually based on Watterson's wife, because I think they may have known each other in childhood, but I think I read at one point that Susie's personality and her character is very similar to what his wife was like as a child, and I think they did know each other as children, or at least when they were younger. And when he was a kid, he was kind of, annoyed by her, but grew to really like her, and then obviously love her. But it's really interesting that just the juxtaposition between the two, they're just so different. Like here, Susie says, hey Calvin, you want to play house? And then Calvin says, I don't know, how do you play? And Susie says, okay, first you come home from work, then I come home from work. We'll gripe about our jobs, and then we'll argue over whose turn it is to microwave dinner. And then Calvin just stares blankly into the abyss. And then again, another pretty common theme in the Calvin and Hobbes comics. Calvin is just making all kinds of a fuss about the food that he has to eat. Just all kinds of noise and sound effects on this first panel. And then his mom says, very grim, Calvin. You're still having oatmeal. And then she follows it up and says, quit playing with your oatmeal and eat it, Calvin. And then his oatmeal in his imagination comes to life and jumps out of the bowl and knocks the milk over. And just makes a bunch of noise and goes, blah, I'm free, blah, blah. And then he tries to stab it and says, yeah, death to oatmeal. And is swinging his fork into the table and misses. And chases after it and says, you'll never escape, vile glop. Die, die. And then you kind of come back to reality, and Calvin's just thrown all of his food all over the room and has made a complete mess, and his mom is trying to rein him in. Calvin, quit. Oh, no. And then she just takes it out on the husband. She goes to the dad and goes, it's your fault we didn't have a sweet little girl. Your stupid chromosome, not mine. And then he just kind of, sits there a bit, kind of shocked, and then he just festers in the chair. He's like, I just live here. I have nothing to do with this. Funny stuff. And on this panel, they're watching TV, and Hobbes is reading the newspaper, and he says, it says here that by the age of 6, most children have seen 1 million murders on television. And then Calvin says, I find that very disturbing. And follows it up with, it means I've been watching all the wrong channels. I find that hard to believe, though. I'm sure that number was possibly thrown out sometime in the 80s. And maybe that's where Bill was pulling this from, but that just, there's no way. I can't believe that number. Maybe today, but even then, that's excessive. I mean, 6 years old seems a little... That's just sensationalist. That's not... There's no way that's real. Anyways. Another food strip. Calvin says, I'm not eating this green stuff. Yuck. And then his dad whispers to him as an aside, goes, good idea, Calvin. It's a plate of toxic waste that will turn you into a mutant if you eat it. And then he just scarfs it down like, scrape, glurk, smack, erf. The onomatopoeia is awesome. But he's just shoveling this down, and his dad's eating peacefully. And then the mom says, there has got to be a better way to make him eat. And Calvin goes, I can feel it working. This bottom strip here. Dad, how come you live in this house with Mom instead of in an apartment with several scantily clad female roommates? His dad just looks out shocked, and then Calvin says, boy, ask a simple question and get all your television privileges revoked. Yeah, if your 6-year-old is saying that to you, that's probably fair. This next panel over here, Calvin says, Hobbes, have you ever kissed a girl? And Hobbes says, a few, I guess. And then Calvin says, really? What was it like? And then he just gives him a big old smooch. And then Hobbes says, only a lot more so. And then Calvin says, gah, I was hoping it wouldn't be so fuzzy. And then another winter comic strip here. I really like these. I think they're very plain, but they really kind of set the scene. And it makes the reader understand that it's a really kind of open and peaceful and very just serene setting. It's just snow everywhere, just blanketing the ground. But here's Susie saying, I love winter days. They're so peaceful. And then you see a snowball just careen over her head. In the next panel, Calvin is loading up another one, and then he drills her in the back of the head and goes, ha ha, gotcha, Susie. And then Susie's got a really terrifying look on her face. And then she rolls up a giant ball. And then Calvin in the distance says, hey, you dummy. You'll never be able to throw a snowball that big. Ah, stupid girl. And then Calvin goes, hey, what are you doing? Get away. And then he yells, hey, put me down. Where are you taking me? Hey, hey. And then she just shoves him into the giant snowball she rolled. Well, I think I may pause it here and pick this up another time. But I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you did enjoy it, please like it. Feel free to subscribe. I'm planning to put out a video at least once a week for the time being and try to have more regular delivery of content. I'll probably have a series going of this book and then maybe try some other things. But definitely want to get on a schedule where I'm putting something out at least once a week. But again, hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.